People mistake the mask for the face. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that because someone is quiet, they're unaware. They're not. Some of us are just doing maths, calculating consequences, working out who gets hurt, working out what explodes if we tell the truth too soon, working out whether the cost of saying something is greater than the cost of carrying it. People often mistake restraint for weakness, silence for agreement, patience for blindness. I've learnt they're usually wrong. Most people have no idea how much self control sits behind a calm face, how many thoughts never leave someone's mouth, how many observations are swallowed, how many times someone chooses peace over being right, not because they can't say it, because they can. And they know exactly what will happen when they do. That's the thing no one talks about. The strongest people I know are not the loudest. They're the people carrying enough information to burn the whole thing to the ground and choosing not to. Not because they're scared, not because they don't have evidence, not because they couldn't defend themselves, because there are children watching, people they love, households that still need functioning, lives that wouldn't wear the impact. So they keep wearing the mask. Fortunately for some people, I'm still at that stage. I can still smile, still nod, still be polite, still absorb things I probably shouldn't have to absorb so everyone else doesn't have to wear the fallout. But if I'm honest, it is exhausting. Not because I don't know what's happening, because I do. Not because I can't see the contradictions, because I can. Not because I don't have something to say, because I have so much to say. People mistake my self control for ignorance. They're not the same thing. What people don't understand is that this mask wasn't created overnight. For years, it was survival. For years, I built armor, walls, defenses. I learnt how to read a room before I walked into it. I learnt how to predict moods. I learnt how to spot danger before it arrived. I learnt how to manage other people's emotions. I learnt how to carry responsibility that was never mine to carry. I learned how to stay small when staying small was safer than being seen. When you've spent years being worn down, criticised, blamed, manipulated, or made responsible for things that were never yours, you don't come out the other side untouched. You come out guarded, hypervigilant, ready for a fight before one has even started, ready to defend yourself before a word has even been spoken. For a long time, that was me. I wasn't calm. I wasn't measured. I wasn't sitting back taking the high road. I was surviving. I was protecting myself the only way I knew how. That's why I find it interesting when people assume restraint comes naturally. It doesn't. Not for me. The truth is, I could tell people exactly what I think. I could point out every contradiction, every double standard, every inconsistency, every story that doesn't quite line up. The growth wasn't learning how to find my voice. I've always had one. The growth was learning when to use it, learning that not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every opinion deserves my attention. Not every battle deserves my energy. Not every misunderstanding requires a correction. That kind of growth is hard won. It comes from years of rebuilding yourself, years of choosing healing over reaction, years of sitting with discomfort instead of firing back, years of learning that protecting your peace is something more important than proving your point. People think strength is saying whatever comes into your head. I don't. I think strength is having every reason to react and choosing not to. I think strength is carrying enough information to destroy a situation and deciding the people around you don't deserve the fallout. I think strength is knowing exactly what you could say and choosing wisdom instead. The funny thing about masks is, after a while, people start believing they're the face. They think your patience is permission. They think your silence is agreement. They think your restraint means you don't see what's happening. I see it. I have just decided it's worth the cost of saying it yet. There's a difference. A big one. I've spent years thinking I needed to explain myself, correct the narrative, defend my intentions, fight for people to see me accurately. These days, I'm less interested in being understood by everyone. People committed to misunderstanding you will always find a way. They don't want answers. They want confirmation. They've already written the story. They're just looking for evidence that supports the version they prefer. The truth doesn't work like that. The truth is patient and it doesn't need a publicist. It doesn't need a Facebook campaign. It doesn't need me running around defending it. Time does most of the work. Patterns do the rest. That's why these days I pay more attention to behaviour than words. Words are easy. Anyone can tell a story. Anyone can paint themselves as the hero. Anyone can paint themselves as a villain. Behaviour is where things get interesting. How people treat others when they're angry. How they behave when they don't get their way. How they talk about people who aren't in the room. How they handle power. How they handle accountability. How they handle being challenged. You can only hide who you are for so long. Eventually, it leaks out. Not in some dramatic movie moment, just in patterns. Little moments repeated often enough that they become impossible to ignore. That's why I don't spend much time worrying about what people say about me anymore. People are entitled to their opinions. They're entitled to their stories. They're entitled to make me the villain if that helps them sleep at night. I'm entitled to keep living my life, to keep standing in my truth, to keep showing up in a way that aligns with my values, to keep choosing fairness even when fairness isn't being extended to me, to keep choosing integrity even when nobody is watching, because eventually the noise fades, the gossip moves on, the audience finds something else to talk about. What remains is character, not the one people invented, the one you lived, the one you modeled, the one the people closest to you experience every single day. That's the version that survives. And unlike a story, it doesn't need defending. It just is.